How can we protect ourselves from the increasing heat? In the next 30 years, the number of days with a feel-like temperature about 32 degrees will rise in all regions, with annual variations. First invented in 1902, air conditioning has established itself as the most widespread cooling strategy across the world. But the more we use AC, the more we'll need it. AC increases the heat outdoors, creating a heat island effect in the urban environment. AC also produces greenhouse gases, which contribute to climate change. The poorest layers of society, the families who will not be able to buy an AC in the next few decades, and outdoor workers in the cities and in the countryside, will remain vulnerable to heat and keep suffering the consequences of emissions created by the wealthier layers of society. The lower middle class can now afford to buy an AC, but it struggles to cope with the cost of energy. In some households, families spend even 40% of their income on electricity because of AC. AC is also a cultural matter. Across the border, among the wealthiest social classes, the habit of isolating oneself from the outdoor environment, wearing long-sleeved clothes and ties in freezing offices when the temperature outside rises over 30 Celsius degrees, is also a matter of social status. Expensive trains, hotels, and shopping malls often ensure unsustainably low temperatures to satisfy tourists and wealthy locals' not only useless but unhealthy habits. Leading the cooling race, almost all households in the United States or in Japan have already installed an AC at home today and will add very little share by 2050. In countries like Italy, which historically haven't used a lot of AC, families are now increasingly buying units because the climate is getting warmer. But it is rather in populous, tropical, emerging countries that a shift will happen. Here, temperatures are already high, and thanks to the growing economy, more and more middle-class families will be able to afford an AC. According to the International Energy Agency, 10 new AC units will be sold every second for the next 30 years, bringing the number of installed units worldwide to 5.6 billion by 2050. Since electricity production is still heavily relying on fossil fuels, the high amount of energy used by the increasing number of AC units could account for up to 7% of the global cumulative greenhouse gas emissions between now and 2100. Countries like India, Brazil, and Indonesia, which have suffered historical wrongs and saw other countries develop at their expense, are now some of the most exposed to the consequences of climate change, and will need to take that into consideration while pushing for their own development. In the last century, architecture has left wisdom aside to comply with the thirst for rapid growth in modern cities, following for decades the logic of maximum profit with minimum investment, isolating each unit, and actively creating the need for AC. Traditional architecture, on the other hand, used to ensure thermal comfort, allowing the air to circulate passively, employing well-known principles of physics. Architects and scientists across the world are now rediscovering traditional architecture and combining it with emerging technologies. In Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the Museum of Tomorrow, designed by Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava, uses seawater instead of fresh water to lower the energy consumption of its AC system. In the city of Tegal, Indonesia, scientists are testing energy-efficient buildings for social housing using sensors that measure heat and air circulation. In Delhi, India, an architecture studio pours water through passive screens and terracotta to cool down by 15 degrees air heat exhaustion from machineries. Near Rome, Italy, researchers found that the cooling potential of Mediterranean plant species can be around 20 degrees on naked walls during the full summer. It is now clear that the time of energy-intensive material comfort needs to come to an end, as humanity is facing the serious risk of being trapped in a new vicious cycle of behaviors and environments, shaped by the ubiquity of AC. No doubt, we will live on a warmer planet, and the correct use of AC can and will save the lives of the most vulnerable members of society, like children, the elderly, and people who are ill. However, private citizens, companies, and governments should now see the opportunity of monetary savings, emission cuts, and investments represented by a variety of cooling options waiting to be rediscovered, revisited, and scaled up.